Genesis of Egypt, Part 2. Part 1 covered the very basic symbols and mythology. It is now time to take it the next step. Back to that image of Nut in the heavens, it's spangled with stars, and Geb on the ground, where the two come together. The Ra symbol is by the womb of Nut. Nut has more than one important star in this area. There are three, and that is where that triangle is formed in the sacred feminine. As above, so below. The triangle above pointing downwards, the pyramid on the ground representing that which is in the sky pointing upwards. That is the general ancient interpretation of these symbols as far as I'm concerned. It is just a theory, and we can take it further. The Hebrew tradition has the same triangles, where the triangle as above and the triangle below merge together, forming one, the Star of David. History shows that the Star of David is the same star of King Solomon, which was a star near the 7 stars of the Pleiades, most likely celebrated by the menorah, and it shows the way to the most important star of King David and Solomon. In Egyptian tradition, as you've seen previously, the sacred triangle in the sky is the same 3 stars, but the monuments on the ground are more widespread. There are 50 of them in ancient Egypt, but one of them is the ultimate monument. It is the obelisk, and that is the masculine figure on the ground with a feminine figure above, and this has caught on more in history through every ancient tradition. It's simply these stars. They all have categorized names and can be measured. Egypt has 3 solar deities pertaining to these 3 stars, a mother, a father, and a son, and so did Sumeria. I have a whole article on this on my website. In ancient tradition, in the early Templars, it was spoken of 3 solar deities as this formation in the heavens. Early Christianity adopted the same patterns, and the Christ was put on the star at the bottom, which is our sun, making it a 4th. So the one at the bottom is our sun, and the 3 above are those of the heavens. Here you can see our sun rising on the horizon as the 4th that fits with this iconology. Looking for evidence of the leg of the bull. It's the constellation of the Egyptians that was the most revered. It is mentioned more than any other constellation, and this coffin lid in a museum in the United States actually shows the stars filled in. And if you compare it to the Pleiades, you'll see it completely opposes scholars' old belief that it was the Big Dipper. The Pleiades is the leg of the bull. It is of Taurus. Everything fits completely, interpreting it in this exact way. Now, the CIRCUMPUNCT, the Ra symbol. What evidence can we find to prove that this symbol is not our sun, but another sun-like star of Ra? And in a tomb at Der-er-Bari, near the Hatshepsut temple, is this dark and dingy tomb. Inside the tomb, you will see the most amazing, complete depiction of all the Egyptian gods. The only tomb I know of that has all the Egyptian gods portrayed with the sun disk on their head, solar disk, another sun we're speaking of here, all being revered on the ground, all the gods of ancient Egypt. But look up in the sky. That is the most amazing part. There is Orion showing the way to the leg of the bull, and a beam of light coming down from the star of Ra. And this is the exact pattern we see in the sky here. It's a very simple layout and a way to find it in ancient times, and they do it probably in modern times. Orion rises vertically on the horizon. It is the key of Solomon. That's why the symbols of the key and the sacred cross are shown next to the rising constellation of Orion's belt. It rises in this exact way, perfectly east, on the 15th of September, the date that Dan Brown launched his book, and he did say he would reveal why. He still has not revealed it. Using just a simple square and a divider, the ancients could measure vertically from the 3 belt stars on that sacred time, and through 33 degrees of arc. Using your eye along that angle, you will find the place of this very tiny sun-like star and the way it is positioned in the heavens, exactly like this. These 2 instruments are very sacred as an icon when the 2 come together. There is that star. It is definitely not the sun, and you can see it is in perspective with the leg of the bull. It has a bull's crown on it in the Senma tomb, and it shows that you follow down 2 stars, which is correct to find the position of the sun-like star, and there's a beam of light coming down from it. That is a sun-like star and not our sun. More simply, it's showing that Orion, leg of bull, followed down from that sun. All the gods on the terrain, speaking of the beginning. There's a man standing to the left of the narrator on the ground, and he is holding the so-called lost phallic symbol or phallus of Osiris. Back to that Shu deity, he's holding the Ra symbol. We saw earlier on in the first part that there are people revering Ra in this exact same arm raised position. And in the earlier one on another sacred bark landing on the Sphinx, they are revering Shu as Ra. This is an interpretation of Ra and the beginnings, the Genesis. In part 1 of my video, I showed Ra landing in many depictions on the back of the Sphinx. It shows two sides of the Sphinx because both sides were sacred, but it is one Sphinx just with the two sides opened out, if you can say, from the left and the right. Ra in this disc I will now reanimate and show exactly what I believe happened. We have Nut from one horizon to the other, covering the expanse of the sky. We have Geb on the ground. Geb and the star of Ra is the connection now, and it's Geb seeding Nut, exactly as you see here, next to the river Nile. On the land, Geb embodied in the earth. I believe the monument of the obelisk is the X that marks the spot on the ground, marking that star in the sky. The male below and the female above. I believe it all started with the Sphinx. I think the Sphinx was the first monument ever built in Egypt. And what followed were the pyramids, and the pyramids, as I've shown, map out the stars. You can see now Nut with the sacred womb, the star of Ra, and the bottom part of the womb being born, so to speak, and the leg of the bull of the Pleiades. And the rest of the stars follow with pyramids as well. Now, taking a blank papyrus, if I were to be telling this story using only the Egyptian symbols and pictograms that have been discovered, I will recap a story that I'll be looking for, and I'll explain it as I go along. On a blank papyrus, Nut, the embodiment of the heavens, from horizon to horizon, terra firma beneath her fingers and her toes. Where it touches the ground, her toes is where she would be standing, her womb directly overhead above in the heavens. The story of the sacred feminine, the Ra symbol, and the importance of that Ra star as a simple notification on the papyrus. The leg of the bull touching the toes would be a very simple way of explaining a pictographic story now, from her feet touching down, standing on the land, her beginnings, or the human beginnings from that star of Ra, coming down from the cosmos, from the leg of the bull. It would be important to show the Sphinx there as well, and how to show the exact Egyptian Sphinx. There are two ways to do it. Firstly, the dream stele as a title above its head, and something in front of the Sphinx which is lost. There was an Osiris statue. This is a way of making a notification that this is the Sphinx. Now, to explain what landed on the back of the Sphinx, I've already shown in part 1 the celestial fan, the ship, the sacred fan, as being a disc-like object celebrating the arrival of Ra. Radiating light, the ancients couldn't draw light like that, but they would paint it more direct. The story of the celestial ship flying with Horus, Ra, there's a lot of different names of this entity with the human head, bird-like body. This ship is flying. It has its own terra firma that is above the horizon. It would also be important to have the Geb tradition showing how land and sky meet, how land is seeded the sky, and of course we have Shu being revered. That is the ultimate way of teaching it. What if I told you this whole papyrus actually exists?